Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our usual Monday night roundup and our look back at the weekend's action for these sides across our region. I'm Chris Bell. Did I say I'm joined from the start by Gareth Walker, Lewis Sale, and Stephen Downs. Stephen Browne will be joining us a little bit later on to discuss all things Leeds United with us. There's quite a lot to get through in the grand scheme of things. A busy weekend of action across our region side. Starting off, though, lads, are we all well? How are we all doing?
All good, mate. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Gaz, are you slightly less, what was the word you used at the weekend? Footballed out?
Yeah, one of you lads used that phrase in the chat last night after, it was like 8 o'clock last night, and I thought that is exactly how I feel, obviously. Being a two-team wanker and my two teams both losing, it was pretty crap this weekend, really. I felt quite shitty last night, yeah.
And speaking of what, no, that's a bit harsh. Downsy, how are we? You all right?
all good, Christopher. All good.
I imagine you are still pretty buzzing, to be fair, after what Saturday brought.
I'm chill, mate. I'm chill. It's a nice win, but
oh,
am I back?
There we
go.
You're back. Yeah.
Oh, I said it's a nice win, but not getting carried away.
That's fair. Let's start then, because there's quite a lot of the stuff to get through with the EFL, with Bradford and Huddersfield and Leeds results. We'll get the non-league stuff started, Lou. And we're going to start kind of bottom end of the pyramid, because I don't know if you've seen the last, half an hour or so, the Wakefield have announced that they're moving grounds. They are going from Featherstone, where they've been ground sharing for a while, and they're now moving to Pontefract Collieries. Of course, they've got the new, is it 3G, 4G, whatever you want to call it, the new AstroTurf pitch in place now at Ponte. And Wakefield are making that move to ground share with Pontefract Collieries.
Yeah, like I say, it's only just broken. So I think obviously Ponte have really developed their ground with some really nice facilities. The pitch looks in a really good nick now. The 4G pitch that's gone down, so it'll help both clubs. Wakefield need to go back to their town, in my opinion, as well at some point.
That's the plan, isn't it?
Yeah. So hopefully this might be a bit of an interim before they may be able to get a ground sorted in Wakefield. But listen, it's an opportunity for both teams to come together. It could prove beneficial. A bit of a mutual, partnership between both clubs. And Ponte have had an half decent season so far. Wakefield doing okay in their league, so it's going to be a challenge, because having to ground share with another team is never easy. And obviously Ponte have got the women's side that they've started up since the ground's been redeveloped as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a decent move for both clubs. But I think from Wakefield's perspective, it just seems slightly nomadic in recent years, and they need to get home of their own very quickly, because if not, then they're going to struggle to climb the pyramid, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say, look, whilst the tendencies haven't been particularly bad whilst they've been ground sharing at Featherstone, that period when they were at Bellevue or whatever, I think it's got a sponsor's name now, correct me if I'm wrong, Lou, but when they were in the city of Wakefield, ground sharing with the Rugby League club, of course, their attendances were doing, well, let's be fair, really, really well. You're talking like 400 or 500 attendances for Wakey in that period. So, obviously, I'm fairly certain that we've seen within the last year or so plans to build a new training ground and to build the kind of a stadium of their own just on the outskirts of Wakefield. But at least, as you say, it goes to show that if they can get themselves back into the city, that the crowds are there for them to attract.
Yeah, they've not done too bad at Fev, to be fair. I think they've had, on average, 300-ish, which isn't too at all bad for that level. I know, obviously, there's potential and alleged, kind of financial issues at Featherstone, which has kind of brought this agreement to a bit of an end at the moment. So hopefully Featherstone do come out of that from a sporting integrity perspective. And, Wakefield have obviously just got to, they've almost got to pitch for tent as and where they can at the moment, because they haven't got the proper home ground. So, yeah, the appetite's there. It is a big town. We all know the thing about Wakefield being one of the biggest towns, or if not the biggest town without a professional football league club in years gone by. But they just need to.
It's a city. It's a
It's
city.
a city, isn't it? Yeah, it's got a cathedral.
City town.
Without a professional football club.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. I think at end of the day, they need to get a ground of their own, probably to what the standard of what Ponty have got, to be honest, make it in between a viable product, both of them professional, but maybe a community asset. But Wakefield's big enough city to do that.
That it is. We'll stick with the Northern Counties East for now. We'll just kind of run through the results over the course of the weekend. Of course, with some FA Vars action for a couple of our sides over the course of the weekend. Albion Sports, they went through with a 3-2 win over Holker Old Boys. So they are into round 3 of the Vars, as are Liversidge, who got a 2-1 win over Atherton Laburnum Rovers. Keelan Swales on the score sheet in that one. In the NCL Premier Division games over the weekend, Campion got a 1-1 draw, a late equaliser from Paddy Sykes. Got them a 1-1 draw at home to Parkgate. Eccleshill were beaten at home by near neighbours Thackley by 2-0. Tadcaster Albion, they lost 3-1 away at Handsworth. And Horbury and Frickley played out a goalless draw, whilst Penistone Church lost 3-0 away at Sheffield into NCL Division 1. And Glasshouse and Welfare, they were heavily beaten by Selby Town. They lost 4-1 in that one. Ilkley Town were beaten by the aforementioned Wakefield. A good afternoon for Wakefield on that occasion, back to scoring some goals as well with a 5-1 win at Ilkley Town. Leeds UFCA, they lost 2-1 away at Maltby Main. And then there was a 3-3 draw between South Leeds and Club Thorn Colliery. So we mentioned that Wakefield were doing all right. In the NCL Division 1, they are currently sitting 4th in those playoff places. I mean, look, they're a long way off the top. It's fair to say currently Durham District top of the table with 52 points, then Harrogate Railway on 48, Worsford Bridge on 46, and then Wakefield on 39, Leeds UFCA, who, to be fair, you've got to give them some credit. Leeds UFCA on their debut season in the pyramid, currently in that final playoff place with 36 points, Lou.
Yeah, they just need to keep the momentum going like the rest of them to try and get as close as they can to Durham District. Like I say, the likes of Wakefield are going to be expected to be up there. Let's say Leeds. UFCA have probably surprised a few. Route 1 have obviously banged in a lot of goals, but kind of mid-table-ish. And towards the bottom end of the table, you've got the likes of Ilkley, Selby, South Leeds that are fighting out between themselves and glass out and propping up the table. So, yeah, there's still a long way to go. And I think, it'd be good to see some representation again from our region, because we've had it in recent years. And I know Durham District and Wakefield have got a little bit of history from previous years gone by, and it'd be good to see, like I say, Wakefield or other teams in our region just to kind of push them a bit and to make it even more competitive at the top. And that league changes so quickly. We saw it, last year Wakefield had a stinker at the start and they nearly won the league, and that's more than capable in that division because being respectful, there's a lack of consistency at that level. So when you have a good run of form, it can really propel you up that table. Yeah,
it can. The NCL Premier Division table looking like that at the moment. Liversidge, again, we said it earlier on. It started a little bit slowly, but they very quickly, after that dodgy run at the start of the season, found their feet and are flying, Lou, at the moment. As you can see, Liversidge topping the table. Tadcaster Albion also in there, currently sitting 3rd. And then a host of our sides just outside those playoff places with Thackley and Eccleshill, Penistone, Campion, Albion Sports down in mid-table at the moment. The only kind of side that's really having a bit of a stuttering season so far is Horbury Town, who are bottom of the league. Golker currently 16th. But for Horbury, obviously new to the league, they've picked to 1 or 2 results of late. I'd say it was just a goalless draw on Saturday.
Yeah, again, it's competitive. Danny Forrest and the guys at Sedge have done well to get themselves to top of the table with games in hand to play there. Obviously won at the weekend in the Vars and are going away at North Shields. And, I think Albion Sports, they play at home to South Liverpool. And obviously we've seen, a bit of damage at Myrish. They had to play their home game at Brighouse. So that's going to be an interesting situation to see how that pitch can get repaired. I know that.
What's happened? I haven't seen that.
Apparently there was a stray firework that's damaged the surface. So obviously that needs to hopefully get repaired, and being an artificial pitch, it's not just a matter of cutting up the grass and sticking a new piece of turf over the top. It's a bit more complicated than that. So there's there's some good fixtures there for the guys in the Vars, and there's potential to go through. But Liversidge and the guys are doing well, and you still got to do the job on the pitch, but it's almost expected as well in the depth that they've got. You'd predicted at the beginning of the season. I still think they've got enough to if not go up automatically, if not to go automatic through the playoffs, will go up automatically.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move up a level then into the MPL East. A very busy weekend of action again for the sides in our region. Brighouse Town, they got a 1-0 win away at Blythe Spartans. Emily got a good win against a strong Bridlington Town side, running out by 3-0 winners. Gareth also matched that scoreline at home again to a very strong Dunstan side, so a great result for Paul Marshall's side there. Elsewhere, Pontefract Collieries racked up some goals themselves over Ashington with that 5-0 win. Brett Park Avenue were beaten on the road at league leaders Red Car Athletic by 4-1, and Silsden and Ossett played out a 2-2 draw. We'll start with Avenue on that one, Lou. Of course, we know your affiliation to the club. Just one of those afternoons, it seems, for Craig Elliott's side, and obviously away at a side that have scored, well, frankly, a ridiculous amount of goals.
Yeah, 60-plus goals in, 17, 18 games is probably the highest across all divisions, if I'm being honest. They hit Sills the other week for 10, so, they're banging form. They've got some really potent strikers, picking the good teams, picking the better players from that region. And I know, obviously, there's a comment there from our Sherman stats, obviously, Red Card at Brighouse, and I think Brighouse are in a really good run of form, 6 unbeaten, so that'll be a really tasty game down there at Brighouse at the weekend. Red Car flying, once you get a bit of momentum and confidence, it's hard to stop. Avenue, by all accounts, were dominant in terms of possession, but just looked a little bit toothless in attack, and sometimes that can happen. But I keep saying this, and it will go on to me later on about just football in general, but there's a little bit of impatience with some people of expecting miracles or not necessarily miracles, that's the wrong way to say, expecting a lot from the lads, and they're doing all right. To lose 2 in the league and be third and be in a second round proper UFA trophy still isn't too bad. And yes, we've dropped points in draws, but we're doing all right. And yes, it's disappointing. Is the league title probably out of reach? Yeah, it probably is. Did I ever think Avenue were going to win it? Probably not. But they're in the mix, and that's where they need to be. But in terms of the other results as well, Ponty hitting 5 against Ashington, a really good solid result. 400 at home shows, again, what them facilities can do for teams like that. Gareth, like you mentioned, with a really good solid victory, and so did Emily against Brid. Brighouse said it earlier on, absolute flyer. I mean, I know Blythe Spartans are under transition again, the Newcastle Blue Star manager going there and taking a few players. But Brighouse really, really doing well under Grant and Danny Frost. And Silsden coming back from 2-0 down to draw with Ossett. It's a good result for Cavanagh chaps down there in that West Yorkshire derby. And you have to look again at the teams in around the battle. Avenue, Emily in the playoffs, Ponty just outside of it, Brighouse in 10th. Last season, Ponty and Brighouse at the wrong end of the table, and Ossett, and now they're comfortably mid-table. There's really the northeast teams at the bottom, occupying the final 6 or 7 places. The lowest in our region is Silsden. We're in 14th and 5 points clear, so it's encouraging.
Yeah, I was going to touch on Silsden because they were kind of one of those bottom 2 sides only a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3-4 weeks ago at most. It's been a really good upturn in form for Matt Cavanagh's side in particular. Yeah,
they've done well, and the kind of one of the turning points may have come against Avenue when they drew 2-2, and they were up against it but dug in and arguably deserved a point with how they performed. And home form's massive, and they'd have been disappointed to lose that game against Ossett, but the way they've come back, fought back, probably feels a bit like a win for them. But it's encouraging because our teams were at the wrong end of that table last season, and now we're kind of putting them northeast clubs in their place a little bit and challenging them, which is not normally being the case.
Yeah, it's slightly peculiar to look at the bottom of the Northern PL East and see so many sides that we usually think of as being kind of that hotbed the Northeast is, and how strong it is in non-league circles. But I say Blythe Town are bottom of the league, Blythe Spartans just above them, then Ashington and Newton Aycliffe make up the bottom 4 for now. Bishop Auckland also and Concert down there too. So all in all, things going pretty well for the majority of our West Yorkshire sides in the MPL East. Just the one result in the MPL Premier, and that was Guys over the course of the weekend. They conceded a very late equaliser away at Whitby Town, but Ian Richards getting his first point in his first game in charge, Lou.
Yeah, solid appointment from Stocksbridge. You know, he's been in the building for a couple of weeks now. It feels like a sensible pair of hands. They've just got to give him time. Simple as that. And again, it probably leads on to stuff I'm going to say later on. But, you know, the guy's been well respected. He's turned Penistone Church round. He's done a remarkable job at Stocksbridge on, you know, very limited funds. He's probably going to get a slightly bigger budget maybe at guys. I'm speculating, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did. And they just need to consolidate, guys. They just need to stick with him for at least another 2-3 years, see it out. He knows the region well. And yes, disappointing to concede a late equaliser, but it stops the rot a little bit and probably resets for the squad going forward. And I expect, you know, that squad will change quite considerably, I think, within the next couple of months.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you often see new managers come in and players make way and new arrivals coming through the door. But as you say, for guys like, I think I said last week or the week before when it was confirmed, it just scream sensible appointment that of course, a new board at Guiseley have made.
Yeah, I think it's solid. You know, they could have gone for a bigger name, larger name, but, you know, he's had a decent reputation, like I mentioned earlier. Stocksbridge were not at all fancied to go up. In fact, I think I put them towards the bottom. They had a lot of financial problems at the beginning of last season, but he really galvanised a good, solid squad. You know, names that have not made it, but, you know, have left different clubs. So he's had a bit of a mismatch of people. He brought them together and got a really unbelievable promotion under his belt. And I think at Guiseley they just need to just reset a little bit. It seems to be a bit chaotic in years gone by. Too many manager changes, too many movers and shakers in the squad. And obviously they've tried to go back to Bauer and Boschel. For whatever reason, it's not worked out for the club and for them. And Guiseley have got a job to do at the moment to kind of be above that relegation zone. They've got enough quality in there, but the board have got to back him, and they've also got to stick with him, because if they don't, then they're on the edge. It's that pivotal moment now. They've twisted, they've got to back him, and they've got to stick with him.
Yeah, it certainly looks like, as you say, if you can kind of recreate a success at Penistone and at Stocksbridge, then over the next 2-3 years, you could be looking at a very solid, strong Guiseley side going forward. Into the National League, and for Halifax, it was a defeat for them at the weekend. They lost 1-0 at home to Hartlepool United, Lou.
Yeah, 3 defeats on the bounce. It's kind of gone the opposite way. The peaked quite rapidly over the past couple of months, and then 3 defeats, albeit against likes of Hartlepool, Carlisle. They played some really tough teams, so that doesn't really help either. But you know what? Still solid enough in that position. Kind of where people might think they might be, probably even higher. Obviously, they've got Sutton at the weekend, and we just need to probably just take state of where they are, just kind of take a deep breath and go again. And, again, we know what it's like over the festive period. We're just before it now, and they'll be wanting to go on another decent run and another block of games that we can target and go for. Anything would have been possibly a bonus out of these past 2 or 3 games. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where it's unfortunate. It's like I say, they missed a penalty, and like Dave said, it was always going to end the way it did, and that just seems to be the way it is. Hartlepool have twisted as well. Simon Grayson leaving. Are they going to be up there or thereabouts? And people talk about similar position in the table. It is still quite early in the league. I don't think there's anything to be worried about at all. If it went another 4 or 5 games losing, then you could start going, what's going to happen there? But I don't think there's anything to worry about.
No, as you say, they've got a game against one of the struggling sides in Sutton United away on Saturday. And then the following Saturday, we'll quickly touch on this, sees the return of Chris Millington. His Solihull Moors side are the visitors to the Shea on the 22nd of November.
If it's on. If it's on, we know what Shea pitch is like. But yeah, it'd be a nice welcome return for Millie and Coops there. Obviously, I'm pretty sure they'll be welcomed back with open arms, but as the cliche goes, over 90 minutes are not friends. Obviously, they've gone in there to a situation at Solihull, not dissimilar to what they were at Halifax, and they're going to try and pull it around as well. So, yeah, they're probably evenly matched teams, but it's one of those that, again, just before the big festive busy period, it'd be a really good opportunity for both teams to get 3 points on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. So Halifax, as we mentioned earlier, currently sitting just outside those playoff places in 9th. with something to go to at the weekend. Let's go into the Football League then, into League One, and we'll turn our attention. Oh, do we go with the happiness of Downsy or the sadness of Gaz? I mean,
go with Downsy. Let him enjoy it.
You have 30 seconds. I'm joking. Go on then, Downsy. Back to winning ways for Lee Grant. Now, the question is, was there enough on Saturday to suggest that Town can kind of go on a run? Or is this basically just bought Lee Grant a little bit more time?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you went into the Plymouth game on the back of a win over Mansfield in the Virtue Motors Trophy. You know, it was a much changed team, a strong team that he went for in that game, but it was a different
record
system.
attendance.
Yeah, record low attendance, which obviously, you know, he's down to, I think, twofold, really. The fact that nobody's being bothered about the competition, to be honest. But the other reason is obviously Town have been in bad form, and I couldn't see them beating Mansfield either. But Grant used a change of system. We played 4-4-2 with a style of 4-4-2, I should say. Wasn't a traditional 4-4-2, but it was a version of it. And he played Bojan and no, he didn't play Bojan. So he played Charles up front with Joe Taylor. Charles got 2 goals on the night, with the young Josh Feeney getting the other. So that, you know, gave the lads some confidence to go into what was a massive game on Saturday against Plymouth. And it was dubbed El Sacchio by both Town fans and Plymouth fans. And we came out on the right side of it. I have to say Plymouth looked very, very poor. They had 5 players out of position. They had a right back playing at left back, a left back playing up top. They had a centre defensive midfielder playing at right back. And at one point, they brought on a young lad that they just signed from, I think, Taunton, 18-year-old kid who, was just chucked on by Tom Cleverley to try and get him out of a hole. So, you know, I thought they were very poor. But on the other hand, I thought Town were really good. Radinho Bolka back from injury and international duty now. Hopefully he can get a run in the side because he looked absolutely excellent. I thought he was man of the match, outstanding on the day. Makes a big difference to that defence in terms of his speed and his ability on the ball. Charles getting another goal. Bojan Radulovic getting a goal. So really, there were a lot of good positives to come out of Saturday. Again, Grant changing his style. I mean, you know, whether that's down to the fact that he really didn't have a lot of choice because of the type of players that he's got available to him, because Town do have a massive injury list with 12 first-team players, and I mean first-team players out injured. But the system worked, and we looked, you know, very good value for the win. We should have scored 10 minutes before we actually did in the first half, and the second half we controlled much of the ball again, despite Plymouth coming out with a little bit of fight, but that sort of died down after 10 minutes in the second half. And, you know, what I would say is the biggest positive for Plymouth is 1,200 fans travelling all the way up 7 hours. Most of them will have travelled to sit in the away end at Town, knowing that they were probably going to lose. But yeah, excellent Saturday. It was really, really positive to sit in the ground. It's the first game I've enjoyed since the opening day against Leyton Orient, and there were just lots and lots of good positives. May it continue.
I mean, off the back of that, you'd be kind of chomping at the bit for the next game. How much of a pain in the backside really is it now that you go into an international break and there is no game now for another 12 days or so, and it's Mansfield Town away?
Yeah, we would have wanted the fixture straight away. I would have thought, or League and the players would have. However, it does give the squad a chance to recover, to get some of those bodies back. I think Marcus McGuane will be, you know, chomping at the bit to at least get some minutes on the pitch. Anthony Evans looks like he might be coming back. Hopefully Jack Watmore can come back as well. So, you know, there's lots of positives there as well for hopefully players being able to make a return. What I do hope, though, at the same time is that Grant doesn't go back to his old ways because he's got more bodies that he can chuck back on the pitch. I hope that he sort of, keeps it simple because when we did that in the last 2 games, we looked like we were a really good team.
I mean, are we starting to see a what's the word? Put it this way: for a long time, Grant was seeming quite stubborn when it came to the tactical situation, the formation, the players that he was using. Are we kind of seeing that? Obviously, in the last couple of games, he has changed things slightly. That actually he's going to be certainly, let's be honest, more adaptable than we first thought. Because for a long time, we thought he's just going to end up running himself into the ground with this stubbornness, and that's going to get him the boot almost a little bit Duff-esque.
Yeah, I mean, the big acid test will be coming in 2 weeks when he does have players back and we see what sort of team and formation that he puts out. Now, if he puts 2 strikers up top, and I mean up top, we'll know that he's learned the lessons and he is starting to really learn. So, baby steps. I think the supporters took a lot of heart from the result against Plymouth. There's more convincing to be done. However, it's a step in the right direction, certainly so. And so you have to give him credit and be positive when things go right. As he totally convinced me that he's still the right man to be in charge. I know Lou's chomping at the bit to get stuck into some of these conversations later on. I think as long as he's going to learn continue to learn in the next couple of games and keep it simple and play to the systems that suit the squad, then all power to him. And you know what? It's a bit of a full circle for him, and that's what being a young head coach is, or manager in our case, is what it's about. But there's some very stern tests coming up.
I was
Cardiff, Wimbledon. They're not easy fixtures at all.
Yeah, I was going to touch on this because obviously, as we say, you travel to Mansfield on 22nd. That's followed by a Tuesday night game away at Luton Town, who themselves have picked up a couple of results of late under Jack Wilshere. Then you host Wimbledon, who are obviously quite a strong physical side, if not kind of leading the league table, whatever. And then you have got a side that's leading the league table in Cardiff at the start of December. As I say, it's one of those that this result, as I said at the start, kind of obviously, if the results were to return to a poor run of form, it looks like this Plymouth game may have just bought him some time rather than kind of maybe change anything. But it's one of those. I guess it remains to be seen, doesn't it? Time will tell.
Yeah. You look at the next 4 games, and they're all very different, aren't they? In terms of styles of the teams that we're playing. You got Nigel Clough at Mansfield, an experienced gaffer. Although we beat them in the cup, they did make 4 or 5 changes themselves, of course. And so, I wouldn't say we sort of like went up against their real first quality squad. So that'll be different. And then we've got, like you said, a very physical testing in Wimbledon. That they've come up, they've done probably better than what a lot of people expected. And I think, that we've struggled against a big physical test so far. Burton is a good example, even against Bradford, who have got, physicality in their team. So we've struggled with that. Luton are a side that, Bloomfield likes to play the right way, but plays a pressing style of football, high intensity, that sort of thing. And then we're playing what ultimately is the football manager of League One in terms of, playing tiki-taka, sort of very passive, defensive, sort of like getting round teams in Brian Barry Murphy. So, I think there's 4 very different managers there that Grant's going to come up against in a very, very short amount of time. So it's going to be interesting.
That's if Barry Murphy's still there by the time you end up playing Cardiff, because he's now being linked with the Middlesbrough job.
I mean, if I was him, I'd understand going there. But again, like we've said in the WhatsApp chat, I think Cardiff have given him an opportunity. He should be good enough to stay there and do the job that he's being paid to do at Cardiff. But that's only my individual opinion.
Yeah, managers seem to be moving on and jumping to other jobs too quickly for my liking nowadays. Let's leave Huddersfield there. Oh, actually, no, let's not quite leave Huddersfield. One more thing that's come out this evening: a return to the club for Johnny Hogg, but not in a playing capacity. You'll be gutted to know.
It is in a playing capacity, actually.
That wasn't the headline on the article I saw. Okay.
No. So I don't know if you've read the article in full, but basically his role is going to be playing in training and alongside under-21 players in under-21 fixtures, sort of like mentoring them on the field. Obviously, it won't count towards his 410 appearances for the club, which is still 6.
Did this for United.
Yeah. So basically, and interestingly, Paul McShane is at the club now, being assistant manager under Grant. So that's where that idea might have come from. To be fair, Hoggy said that he had offers in the summer to go elsewhere, presumably, maybe even at League One clubs. I don't know. He's still a quality player at this sort of level. So. Listen, I'm delighted he's decided to stay at the club. He's a town legend. He always will be in my eyes. And I'm pleased that he's going to stay around because he's the sort of personality, along with Peter Jackson, Andy Booth, John Worthington, who have been there, played for the club, know what it means, and can really get into the under-21 lads and say, look, if you wear this shirt, this is what it means to this football club to wear this shirt, and you better damn try hard to learn and be the best that you can be every time you represent the football club on the pitch. And I think personally, you can't get enough of those characters in and around your training ground. So for me, it's good news. It's good news. It's good. It's been a really positive week for Town. I'm really happy. I'm trying not to be too happy because it could all turn to crap in 2 weeks, and I could be sat here facing you lot and going, well, it's Grant out time.
Yeah, so Jay Robinson says it's a tough league, wide open this season, boys. Lots of twists and turns ahead. He's not wrong. Don't forget, you can get in touch with us. You can use the comments on YouTube, get in touch on Facebook and on Twitter as well, and we'll get your thoughts and comments. Hello to Lee as well. He says, hi guys, Mark John together. We'll be talking Leeds in a little while, but we'll turn our attention to that twist and turns of League One and come to you guys for Bradford City. This was a game that when we spoke last week, I think it's fair to say you were dreading to a point because of what we expect and what we know about Gary Bowyer's sides, that Burton would probably come, try and do a job and dig in. And lo and behold, it went exactly to the script you expected.
It didn't really, Chris. People were worried that that's what had happened. And to be fair to Burton, they just outplayed us in the first half. We were absolutely dreadful in that first half. Probably the worst we've played for a long, long time. I know you guys were at the Lincoln game, and we talked after that about how poor City were in that first 25 minutes. Well, that 25-minute performance against Lincoln lasted for the whole of the first half against Burton. We were just absolutely dreadful, and all this worry about Burton coming and anti-footballing us and wasting time and killing the game and doing things, the dark arts, we needn't have worried about that because they didn't need to, because they just came and outplayed us in that first 45 minutes. We couldn't string two passes together. We're absolutely dreadful. And Burton, and it cost us, and Burton scored 2 goals in, I think, the 41st minute and the 46th minute, and we're 2-0 up at half time. And by the time we got our act together in the second half and actually came out and played how we know we can play, we'd left ourselves far too much to do. And we deservedly lost the game. And yeah, it was a. I think it's now 1 win in 7, and that win was in the Virtue Motors. So we're wobbling a little bit. Not that I want to get too disheartened, because obviously I've come on this podcast and said numerous times that we will hit a sticky run, and maybe we're in it now. And form has been streaky under Alexander before, and we've come through it. So I'm sure we will do again.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of wobbles, I'm just going to bring our very own Stephen Browne into the conversation whilst we're here, and whilst we've got that pause. But yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those guys. Look, I'll say we wondered what Burton would do, and as you say, we just didn't expect City to necessarily be as poor as they were.
No, we weren't. And what annoyed me a little bit was in the second half when obviously they were 2-0 up and City fans are getting apoplectic in the stands at the time wasting in the dark arts and all this stuff. And me and a couple of lads I sit with us had said it first half. If they get in front, you know what's going to happen. We thought it had happened at 0-0. But it happened at 2. They didn't need to do it at 0-0. They waited till they were 2-0 up until we started playing, and then it started. And to be honest, that apoplectic anger that was coming from the stands at them, it aimed at Gary Bowyer's team in the second half, would have been much better aimed at City's performance in the first half. To be honest with you, because they were we were dreadful. And I've said obviously that we've got to. I've come on this podcast and said that we shouldn't overreact when we lose a few games, because obviously we've got to remember how far we've come in the last 18 months and we really have done well, and we expectations this season have obviously increased based on how we've started, and we shouldn't be too downhearted when we lose, and I won't be getting carried away with a poor performance or a defeat, but that doesn't mean that you can't point out how bad we were in that first half. You know, there's two sides to it. We shouldn't get carried away and say that, you know, it's the end of the world. But you need to call out when something's as bad as it was, and it was really, really bad in that first half.
I mean, table-wise, miraculously, really, not too much actually changed for City. Still sitting second. I mean, is there an element where you kind of feel like, yes, whilst it was a missed opportunity and you would have gone back top, to a point, City slightly got away with it because of results elsewhere?
Yeah, I think a lot of other teams lost up there too, didn't they? I mean, Stockport got hammered by Luton, which was a massive surprise for everybody. Although, like you said earlier to Downsy, obviously Wiltshire's started reasonably well there. I think the thing with City is that it is 1 win in 7, and it is that win was in the Virtue Motors Trophy. And obviously we know different teams take it to different, you know, think different things about that competition, how seriously they take it. What I will point out is, yeah, that 1 win in 7 is a bit worrying, and the goals do appear to have dried up a little bit. Obviously, the goal was a penalty on Saturday. Stonewall penalty, by the way. I don't think either fans argued with that. And the only other goal we've scored in the last 3 or 4 games was a deflected shot from Neil Burns. So, yeah, the goals are drying up, and it's 1 win in 7. But I will point out that in that run of 7 games where we've not won 6 of them, Saturday was the only one where you could say we deserve to lose. You know, the other performances when we've drawn games, we've probably been arguably the equal. We've deserved a draw at least. Some of them we've probably deserved to win. We lost at Cheltenham in the Cup the week before and apparently absolutely battered him in the second half. The Lincoln game, I thought Lincoln were the better side the first half. We were the better side the second half. So it hasn't been a case of we've deserved to lose or we've not deserved to win in those games. Saturday was the first time where we deserved to lose the game, and I just hope that there's a little bit of a reaction. I mean, Max Power came out afterwards and said that it was the first time he could, you know, the players need to really look at themselves after that first half performance. The second half was miles better, Chris. The second half, we turned up and played how we know we can play. It was just a case of what we do. And we need to be careful that we don't do that again because, like I say, we started slow against Lincoln in the previous league game and we did it again and it cost us on Saturday.
Can I just
go on, Danza?
No. I was just going to say that Gaz is right with what you said about the table. I love the fact it's such a Huddersfield Town thing that we win and still drop a place. Yeah, I just love that on Saturday. But yeah, it was just something to point out. Such a Town thing to do.
A couple of comments. I mean, to be fair, I'm just going to quickly bring up that table actually. Because I think the only side in the top 6 to win was Bolton. I can't remember who they played, but I think they had a 3 or 4-0 win over somebody. Cardiff dropped points. Lincoln lost at Rotherham. Stevenage, I think, lost as well. It was a really bizarre weekend, to be fair, in the grand scheme of things. A couple of comments that have come in So far, Gaz, I mean, we'll start with Jed. Jed says, look, as we'll probably say all over the course of the season, whilst City are in and around where they are now, as Jed says, City fans would have taken this before the season, surely.
1,000%, and that's why we've got to put it in perspective, and why I've said previously that when we do hit a bad run, which we seem to be hitting one a little bit now, like I said, we've been streaky under Alexander before, and we've come through it, and we need to remember where we were 18 months ago. That 100% true. But like I said a few minutes ago, on the flip side of that, you've still got to be able to call out when you play as badly as we did in that first half, and you've got to just like Max Power said after the game, you've got to learn your lessons from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. So yeah, 100% we'd have taken it at the start of the season. We're ahead of where anybody expected us to be, City fan or non-City fan.
Yeah, and 72 Cheesy, he says that he had a few boos on the City highlights, Gav, which surprised him. Judging the town fan looking at the picture, but surprised him that City fans were less than pleased. But as you say, it's one of those. I guess it depends when the boos were ringing around Valley Parade, because if it was at half time with the poor performance in the first half, you can understand it.
Yeah, a few boos maybe at how poor the 2 goals were that we conceded. That it was just a case of, players not doing the jobs properly, just sloppy on the ball and really, really careless. I mean, I don't know if you saw the first goal. Max Power's attempted clearance is pathetic, to be honest with you. When the ball comes into the box, it's really, really poor, and it's unlike him because he's been really good. So just little things like that where you just think players have maybe taken the foot off the gas a little bit and it needs calling out. But then there were probably more boos, like I hinted at earlier on, in the second half, when people were going apoplectic at the referee and at Burton time wasting and stuff. So it depends when they were, but probably justified the few that there were, but not, like I say, you've just got to be careful that you don't go over the top when we're all happy with where we are and how far we've come. What I do want to point out as well is Charlie Webster, Burton Albion's midfielder, absolutely fantastic, man of the match by a country mile. I thought he was brilliant on Saturday. He ran the show for the. We allowed him to because Max Power and Tommy Lee in the first half were far, far too deep, almost sitting on top of the centre halves, which left a massive gap for him to operate in the centre of midfield. And obviously it helped our attacks just broke down far too easily with us being careless on the ball and giving it away. But yeah, he was man of the match by a mile. Really, really impressed with him.
Same against us, guys. He was so good against us as well. I won't be surprised in next season if he got a bigger move than Burton, to be honest.
Yeah, is he ex-Chelsea? He's been through the Chelsea.
I was going to say he's a product of the Chelsea academy, and I know he had some good loan spells out from Chelsea as well in his younger days, and he's doing superbly now at Burton.
I don't know how old he is, though. Is he, what, 27, 28?
22?
Yeah,
he's still young.
He's only young, yeah. He's only early 20s, I think, at most.
He's going to get a bigger club than Burton, definitely, coming in for him, because he ran the show against us as well.
Yeah, like you say, I think a lot of it is like we did allow him to with how we played in that first half. And in the second half, he was quieter because, I'll be honest with you, I really enjoyed the second half. It was one of those where when the first goal went in, it was like when the second one's going to come, and then we might even go on and win it. It was one of them. It was really, really, it reminded me of the Parkinson days when we laid siege to the Kop in the second half. And it was a bit like that. It was just the fact we'd left ourselves far too much to do with how poor we were in the first half. And we just got to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Cheesy reckons that Webster will be leaving Burton in January. Just saying, all the Yorkshire teams around the playoffs now. Where's Rotherham can come from? Rotherham can piss rides off. That's what Rotherham can do. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm a Lincoln fan. They beat us 3-0 on Saturday.
That was a shock result, that, Chris. It really was. I didn't see that coming at all.
Well, I mentioned it just before we came on air. I was chatting to you all, and it's the classic Skubala winter shit fit that we're going to. Like every season so far, like when he first took over, I think he took over in late September, early October in the first season, and by November, December, January, we were terrible. We didn't win until the end of January. Last season, the same thing happened. It's like we need to go on pre-season training camps in frigging Iceland and the Arctic, like the country, not the supermarket, and just play in cold environments, because it gets to like now, and we just can't play. We just can't get a win for shit. Like
it can be cold though on IL-10. I've been in Iceland. It's when the peas get going. But morning to Jeb, by the way. He watches us from Australia. So
Oh, well, he doesn't know a damn thing that cold, does he, then? If he's chuffing Australia, bloody hell. But yeah, just pathetic from Lincoln. Anyway, speaking of pathetic, Browne, not you personally, but Leeds defending at the weekend.
Yeah, hang on. Let me just sort me my camera out 2 seconds.
Oh.
Hey.
Just leave that on pretty much.
I mean, you've had some paper around, haven't you, lad? If that was
yeah, me and my younger days, mate. Me and my younger days. Yeah. Where do we begin? Where do you want to start, Chris?
I mean, Christ, about you tell me the group chat. I think the group chat is a good place to start because yesterday was interesting with a capital I.
It was, wasn't it? We had some different opinions, I think, didn't we? Yesterday. How do I feel about?
Let's start with the match, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's start with the actual 90 minutes of football, and then we'll let Lou have his little rant about managers and everything else to come afterwards as well. So, yeah, in terms of the game itself, you went ahead. You were pretty stunned, judging by the group chat. And, yeah.
Yeah, we were... yeah, so, I mean, going into the game on Sunday, I put in the group, you know, when you just know. You just absolutely know that you're not gonna be at it. And that's what I was worried about. It wasn't what I expected. It was what I feared. And I'd said to Jay on our Thursday show, I said, I'm worried, really worried that we're just going to see a repeat of the Brighton performance. And for Farke, that's going to be really damaging if we just see the same thing again. And that's exactly what was served up. Terrible performance, start to finish. Nottingham Forest had about 10 shots before we even knew what planet we were on. We get the goal, fantastic save from Perry. Should have been 1-0 down. He pulls off a miraculous save, and we go up the other end and we nab a goal. And you're thinking, brilliant. You know what? Fine, don't care. We've not had much luck this season, so bring it on. We've got something to go out. We've got something to protect. And then we go and concede within 2 minutes. 2 minutes, we throw that lead away. And we're just so poor, just so poor. And the worst thing is it's predictable. Now, this is where the problem with Farke is now. You'll know me and Jay, we're big Farke supporters. We've enjoyed what he's done this season. We've backed what he's done this season. I think he's done well earlier on in the season. But I just think, looking at how we performed on Sunday, it's really difficult because I just feel like we're trending downwards now. I think the wheels are coming off a little bit. We've won 1 game in 6. The game we won against West Ham, if you're being harsh, we could have easily drawn that game. We were very close to throwing that away as well. It wasn't a good second half performance in that game. So we've won 1 in 6 game. We've got a hell of a run around the corner. We're playing Liverpool, Man City, Villa, Chelsea. This was the time we needed to pick up points if we were going to give ourselves a chance. Now, what happens? We keep Farke, we probably lose all of those games, potentially, probably, most likely. And then what are they going to do? Farke's holding on to this fact that we're trending at a point per game, correct? But does that take into account who we're playing over the next month and a half or 2 months or whatever? I don't know, because the likelihood is we'll still be on 11 points. Now, the caveat to that is, let's see what we're like at home. Massive game against Villa in a couple of weeks at home. We've been decent at home so far. Although, like I say, the West Ham game, it was less convincing than what we'd seen previously. I think if we'd have been playing West Ham a week later, where Nuno had an extra week, I think it would have been a different story. But look, that's what about it. So it's a huge. Let's just cut to it. Farke, do you make the change? Let's get straight to it.
Yeah, you're skipping ahead.
I know. I was
going to bring up the table and everything. And
even me and Jay on yesterday's stream, about 10 minutes into it, we couldn't help but go to this. Now, the problem is we've got a horrible run. So if you do make a change, new managers coming in, it's the likelihood is they're going to have a terrible start.
It's difficult.
I just don't know where this is heading. with Farker. I don't know where it's heading, and I've lost a bit of faith that he can turn this around. And the problem is that was so predictable yesterday, and I just worry that he hasn't got any other ideas in the locker. Gav says there we play 7 of the bottom 9 and only 11 points. I mean, yeah, it's not good. But we're outside of the relegation zone for now. But I don't know. I think with Farker's football, sometimes if it doesn't quite click, it can feel like we've got separate parts of the machine that aren't working together. Yeah, absolutely. There was a stat flying around last week with the slowest build-up team in the Premier. I mean, Jesus. I mean, honest to God. I mean, what happens is we have the ball with a centre-back. The other team mark every other player. And we just kind of pass it around for a bit and then end up knocking it long. There's no ideas. There's just no. I don't understand what's happened earlier in the season. When we played Newcastle, Lou will know, we were direct, we were aggressive, we were, in their face. Where's the aggression? Where's the intensity? We've signed all these, 6 foot plus players, and yet we're trying to pass it around like it's back in the Championship. I don't get it. So I don't know. And to be honest, I think there's bigger problems at play. I think, look, you can talk institutionally, you can look at the Premier League, and you could go, it's not set up that new teams can come up and survive. It is a bit of a rigged game. We know that. We know it's a bit of a rigged game in the Premier League. I think also there's going to be big question marks about the owners, the 49ers. I think, the sporting director that we've got in this year, it was an internal appointment, which is code name for cheap appointment. Guy that's been at the club for however many years. Let's give him the big job, sporting director of a club in the Premier League. Planet are you on? Are you sure? How can that be a decision? How can you give someone with no experience at that level the sporting director job? Now, the recruitment, we have to look at the recruitment because you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we're not good enough, but the recruitment's been good. That doesn't fly either now. So there's a whole thing. We're looking at the recruitment, going, what were the plans in the summer? The chief strategy officer, Robbie Evans, he was another one that was an internal appointment, another big key decision. He replaced Angus Kinnear, who was CEO. And that was another cheap appointment. It was another internal appointment. You look at the mess the 49ers made at Rangers. How long did they keep Martin for when it was clear to every Rangers fan and his dog that it wasn't going to work with Russell Martin before they bit the bullet and made the change?
We said that before they appointed him.
Yeah, we it's. I think the thing that what I'm seeing with Leeds as well, and I raised this with Jay. Sorry, Jay. I raised it with him last week. Was, you look at Forest, you look at Marinakis, you look at Brighton, you look at Tony Bloom, you look at Chelsea when they had Abramovich, you look at these clubs that have these figureheads who own the club or are in these key positions driving the club. Leeds are run by an investment company. They just invest. So what they do is they just look at, right, what's worked before and try and copy it. So I think even if you get rid of Farker, I think we'll just get a bog standard appointment anyway. I mean, look at the candidates that are out there. Robbie Keane, Gerrard.
Have you looked at... I mean, I was waiting for Robbie Keane. I was waiting for Robbie Keane to be kind of shunned to a point. I know he's doing well at Ferencváros, but that's obviously the biggest club in the respective division. Marco Rose doesn't seem a bad one, but this is the problem that and you know what? There was obviously all that talk in the summer about do we axe Farker now before the season started, and at the time everyone, and I think yourself and Jay were both inclined to be like, no, he's deserved this chance to manage it in the Prem, etc. Kind of see where we go from here. I mean, two questions, I guess. The first one is, from where you were in the summer, do you think you're in a better or worse position than you expected at the time now, sat as we are this many games in?
So, in terms of just position,
Position and
we're
points,
doing
yeah.
okay. I think we're doing okay. We're outside the relegation zone. The problem is the performances. That's the concern. Now, Jesse Marsh, when, what was that, 3 seasons ago? At the same stage of the season, he had 2 more points. We didn't sack him. We ended up sacking him in January or February, and it was too late. It's gone. Can't do anything now. Nobody wants to take over the club. So we've got a very close lesson in history. Telling us, the blinkers are ongoing. Is this going to work? You've got to do this early enough. I think most teams that start swapping managers in February, January, March, whatever, that tends to be too late, far too late. The performances is what's worrying me. I would have expected us to improve. I would have expected us to maybe start how we are now and actually get closer to what we were at the start of the season. I've always thought about Farker. He always takes about 10 games to really get going in a season. It doesn't seem to have happened this year. It seems to be kind of on the downward slope. So in terms of points, position, green tick, in terms of performances, and where I feel this is heading, it's a thumbs down.
I mean, I'm just reading Gavin's comments. He says sadly it's 11 from 11. It will be 11 points from 15 after the next 4 games. He has to go now. He's reached his limits. I mean, the other thing that I was going to kind of point out when I said I had 2 questions was, had you have got rid of him in the summer, you probably would have been looking at a better pool of possible candidates in a strange way than maybe you are now.
Well, I put in the group, I know Jay, or Joe, as I'm calling him tonight, didn't think it would be something that happened, but there were strong rumours that they wanted to get rid of Farker. They were seriously considering it. And then fan reaction put them off because we had the parade, everyone's in love with each other, and, all that kind of thing. There's no, and that emotion took over a little bit, and they ended up sticking with Farker, which I think is damning. I think if that is true, it tells you everything. It tells you absolutely everything. I want an ownership, someone who makes decisive decisions, regardless of fan sentiment. So yeah, I think you're right. I mean, if we'd have had the summer, if you'd have gone into the summer, if you got rid of Farker, then you probably would have had more options. You certainly would have had more options. I think it's a better situation for a manager to go in when they got a pre-season and stuff, but I don't know. I mean, at the time, I was happy. I was happy to give Farker a chance, but I don't know.
Downser, I want to bring you in because I know you got a point that you want to kind of put to Browne.
Well, I'll let Lou go first if he wants, because he's been...
No, you go for it, Downser. Go for it, mate.
Well, there's just a couple of points, really, I think, and I'd like Brownie to sort of answer them one by one if he can, but I know I'll be very quick. Firstly, right, we've talked in the group, and I've been quite quiet over the last sort of day or so on LEEDS chat, because I've sort of sat back, watched the reaction. I've watched a few what people have said. All the times in the summer, we said, or you guys said, that you were happy with the recruitment, or happy as you could be, and the only thing that was really missing was a creative person like the lad at Brighton that you sold last year.
Yeah.
But for me, right, a perfect example of how you didn't score against Forest on Sunday, Brownie, was when the ball was crossed in and Calvert-Lewin had a chance to head the ball, right? It was a golden opportunity. There was hardly anybody around him. He had a clear chance of the header and he fluffed his lines, right? I think your major problem is not having a good number 9. And I think, you don't have a creative player, but I also don't think you've got a good enough number 9. I know Nemecha scored, and it was a good goal on Sunday to get the first goal. It's a great strike, but overall, them 2 guys are not going to get you the amount of goals that you need to stay in the league. And it was a point in the group was put forward that saying, well, we've got a good enough squad. We just need one player to make this a good squad. And then I see Leeds fans going, absolutely mad after the game, going, "We've got a crap squad. We've got this. We've got that." You can't have it both ways. You can't have been one player away from being a really good competitive squad, and now you're coming on here. I'm not saying you personally. I'm saying the Leeds fan base in general, saying, "Well, actually, we don't think we've got a very good squad. We've got the third, probably a bottom 3 squad, and we're doing better than what we thought we were going to be doing." I mean, which way do you have? I totally respect what you're saying about having the guy in charge of recruitment that's come internally from the club. I agree, it's probably the cheap option. We've seen it at Town. I've also seen the what you're saying about reacting to fan bases, what clubs do. Duff was sacked last year on fan base reaction, 100%. So I don't really know what Farker's meant to do, to be honest, because he can't really win, can he? I mean, he's probably not in control of the recruitment. He ain't got the squad probably that he wanted, and he's probably making the best out of a bad situation. But I don't think he's a Premier League manager anyway. I never have done, to be honest. I just wondered on them couple of points if you've got any views, really.
Yeah, no, I think some great points there. I think in terms of DCL, I mean, Jesus, anyone could have looked at Dominic Calvert-Lewin's career and said this guy does not know how to put the ball in the back of the net. You ask any Everton fan, could not put the ball in the back of the net. But what you're hoping from DCL is that, he brings others into the game. He's cute, how he wins fouls, and he's experienced, blah blah blah. But he's not going to put the ball in the back of the net. And in terms of the recruitment generally, the attack's a mess. I mean, the attack's not good enough.
But DCL's not doing that, is he? And neither's Nemecha. He's not doing the cute little things to get you near the box.
I think DCL has been playing well. I think he's one of them. He's good at winning headers. He holds the ball up. He does clever little knock-ons. But eventually he's going to lose the will to live, because who's there to support him? There's no one near him. There's nobody to pick up the second balls. That we've just dropped off. For me, major problem at the minute, and why I'm kind of pointing fingers at Farker as well, is what has happened to this midfield. Because the recruitment, we were kind of buzzing about areas of recruitment in the summer. I think everyone certainly felt by the end, I certainly did, that we'd not got enough in attack, but the midfield felt pretty good. If you look at Anton Stack, this guy was called the German Declan Rice. If you look at Longstaff, massively experienced Premier League player. Bijol was, really highly rated in Italy. Goodmanson, these are decent signings. So where's the level of performance? Why isn't Farker getting more from them? That's where I'm looking at Farker and going, okay, yes, we know there's problems with some of the tools you've got, but why aren't you doing more with the tools that are there? And it's all become very predictable. It's become his formations, his lineups are very predictable. If he wins a game, it's the same team the next game. If he loses, that's when he'll make a change. Nonto's been fit for 3 weeks and didn't make the squad. And then there's question marks. He's bringing Jack Harrison on at left back, who was absolutely dreadful and gives away a penalty. Ramazani, I'm not his biggest fan. I think his contribution's been overblown. But why did we let him go then to have such limited creative players on the wing? So yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if that answers your question. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it kind of does. I just feel that I don't get is I don't understand that this thing about we're only one player away from being a really good squad, to then everybody losing their minds after Forest going, well, actually, we ain't got that good a squad. Like, you can't have it both ways just after. And I know all fan bases react, but it just seemingly is a thing with Leeds at the moment.
I've said it for a couple of weeks, so I think confidence. I think confidence for a footballer is just so huge. You look at someone like Klopp, who goes, he just gives players confidence, doesn't he? You can see he can turn average players, into excellent players because of that confidence. And I just look at players like Stack at the minute, who is good enough. There's just no confidence there. And for me, Farker's whole demeanour and the attitude is we're not great, and we're not a good team, and we're doing well, and we're going to struggle, and I don't know. It's just a very the whole thing smacks of just confidence being drained out of the lads, and it's his job to give these players confidence, to help give them confidence, and he's not doing that at the minute, especially away from home.
I mean, look, I know Lou's got a lot that he wants to get off his chest. Just before we come to Lou, I just want to bring up this. This is the latest odds for the next Leeds managers list that I've literally just screenshotted a few minutes ago. And you can see Marco Rose, who was a former Borussia Mönchengladbach, former Borussia Dortmund, and an RB Leipzig manager. He's currently the 13-8 favourite. You've then got the likes of Brendan Rodgers, Steven Gerrard, Carrick, Knutson, Ten Hag, O'Neill, who I know Brownie's absolutely dreading that prospect of Gary O'Neill rocking up at Ellen Road. And then some more on the outsiders. The likes of Robbins, Keane, Hassan Hootel,
Please appoint
Southgate, and bottom of that list, I think if I just take this ticker off, is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. There we go, United legend.
Please appoint Russell Martin. Please, that'd be amazing. That'd be stunning.
Can you imagine the meltdown just within Brownie individually would be worth it?
I like agreement if that happens.
I will sponsor the next the Leeds show for 50 quid if they appoint Russell Martin. I've said that live on air as well, so I can be held to it. That'd be stunning.
I'm shutting the channel down. The channel's
the same owners who sack him at Rangers appoint him at Leeds. Please let it happen.
I mean,
another option.
Right, where's my shirt? Where's my shirt?
Yeah, get my shirt on, Browne.
Lou, I mean, look, we'll come to you because
get straps in, boys.
You're a man that likes to give managers time.
Yeah,
but come on, surely even you can see that Farker is not a Premier League manager.
From what? For a short spell at Norwich?
Well, no. To be fair,
is that that's what we're judging him on, though, aren't we?
2 seasons in the Premier League Norwich. To be fair,
but that's what people are judging him on for a short spell at Norwich. That is a failure.
He's wank then. He's wank now. Like nothing's changed.
I disagree.
We lost the money from the stream 2 minutes in when Gaz was wanking, so it's time.
Right. So this has been brewing, right? And I get it. I get it that sometimes managers can make some bizarre decisions. And Brownie's hit the nail on the head with some of the stuff I was going to say about confidence. Like, do not underestimate the power of confidence in players and managers in the club. Leeds were riding the crest of a wave. They were pretty much not rock bottom, but not far off it after a playoff defeat, which the guys were there. We've seen it. Farker's pulled them off the canvas, got them sorted after what was a bloody awful pre-season the year before, got them close and got them back up at the first time of asking when people were questioning Farker. He did the job. He ticked the box. He got what they needed. Now he's got them into the Premier League. He's had limited resources because of PSR, which is almost a stranglehold around a lot of clubs in the Premier League to make a success of it. There's certain clubs who have found a niche because are they ambitious enough to get in the top 6? They're going to try, but they're probably not going to get there. And there's the rest of everybody else. So the likes of the Bournemouth, the Brightons, to an extent the Brentfords and that can almost get away with a little bit of just going through the motions and being an established Premier League club because they've just timed it right. Sometimes that's just you get your lucky breaks and that's where we are. So all this shortism stuff about people wanting Farker out and managers, this, that and the other. And we can talk about what Gaz went through at Bradford City with Alexander. There were people protesting at the club. They wanted Alexander out. Lo and behold, he gets them promoted. At the weekend, there's people booing Thomas Frank for making a substitution. 5 minutes later, the lad goes and scores. That kind of shuts a lot of people up. But I thought, you know what, hang on a minute. Let's have a think about this. Am I kind of just being a slightly pro-Farker thinking he's doing the right job and I'm, giving him too much leniency, thinking he's got too much credit? So I thought I'll go back over the years and kind of go through the shortest reigns in the Premier League and the last 3 years in the Premier League when clubs have swapped managers, right? So strap yourselves in, because Leeds fans, you want Farker out. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener. So the shortest spells in the Premier League, Sam Allardyce, Leeds United, 30 days, relegated 2023. Ange Postecoglou, 39 days at Forest. They've made the decision straight away. They've made a mistake. They've twisted immediately. Les Reed, Charlton, 40 days at Charlton, relegated 2006. Rennie Meulenstein, Fulham, 75 days, relegated 2013. Frank de Boer was sacked really early on at Palace. They got Roy Hodgson in, saved the day straight away. Bob Bradley, sacked just after Boxing Day, Swansea, they survived. Flores at Watford, they survived, they sacked on December. So that could be the silver lining for Leeds United fans. 2 teams in years gone by have sacked their manager around December time to give themselves a break. I go on. Terry O'Connor, Wolves, 91 days, 2012, relegated. Nathan Jones, Southampton, 94 days, relegated 2022. Colin Todd, 98 days, Derby County, relegated 2001. So 6 out of 9 teams have had shortest reigns of managers have got relegated. If you put somebody else in after Farker in December, you're going to get probably around Nathan Jones, Colin Todd, about 100 days or so. And Terry Connor, they got relegated. But that's not enough for some people, so I'll carry on. Okay, so 3 years gone by in the Premier League, I'll go through it. 21-22, Burnley had 2 managers, Sean Dyche, Mike Jackson, got relegated. Watford had Xisco Muniz, Ranieri, Roy Hodgson, 3 managers, relegated. Norwich had Daniel Farker, Dean Smith, relegated. The year after, Southampton had 2 managers, Nathan Jones and Hasenhüttl, got relegated. Leeds, as Browne and Jano, Marsh, Gracia, Allardyce, 3 managers, relegated. Leicester had 2 managers with Brendan Rodgers and Dean Smith, relegated. Last year, Sheffield United in 2023, 2 managers, Paul Heckingbottom, Chris Wilder, relegated. Burnley had 2 managers, albeit company took on pretty much majority. Parker took on the end of it, got relegated. And Luton were pretty much a League One team anyway. So Leeds fans, you want Farker out? It's looking likely you're going to get relegated.
Yeah, but they're probably going to get relegated with Farker. So
what's that?
They're probably going to get relegated with Farker anyway. Like, just because other sides have got relegated after changing managers doesn't mean Leeds are going to stay up by sticking with Farker.
No, and like I said earlier, there's 2 clubs in the past in December who've swapped managers, Swansea and Watford, and they survived it. But be careful what you wish for, because people want Farker out. You're likely, based on history, that your club is going to get relegated. What do people expect from a team who's come up from the Championship with little PSR resources compared to other teams? Expect from the Premier League. Yes, Sunderland at the moment have been a bit of an anomaly, and it hurts me to say they've done really well. But come AFCON, they're losing 6 or 7 players, and arguably some of their players in that team could be questioned whether the Premier League quality. Leeds at the moment are doing what's expected. Would they have got Nuno in as a manager? No. Could they have got Dyche in? Possibly, but it's still a stretch. Who's going to come in? You bring that list back up. Who's their mods? Right, let's go through them. Right. Marco Rose, completely unproven in the Premier League. Red Bull connection is likely. Brendan Rodgers, isn't considered good enough for Leicester in the Premier League before. Wasn't considered good enough by Celtic, but now he's second choice. Steven Gerrard didn't do out at Villa. Let me continue. Michael Carrick at Middlesbrough didn't last long there. Knutson I've no idea about. Ten Hag stunk the place out at Man United. Gary O'Neill, to be fair, didn't do too bad at Wolves. Postecoglou can't last more than 40 days in Forest. Mark Robbins, who I think's good enough, but is unproven in the Premier League. Robbie Keane, unproven in the Premier League. Hasenhüttl stunk the place out at Southampton, got sacked.
Did he bollocks?
No idea. Russell Martin hadn't really done much. Frank Lampard hasn't been proven in the Premier League. Gareth Southgate got relegated with Borough. So what do Leeds fans want? What are Leeds fans watching this expecting by getting rid of Farker? Because if they get rid of Farker and get a new manager in, is it likely they're going to go 12th, 13th and up? I don't think so. The Premier League is a completely different beast now.
I'm sorry, but there is some monumental bullcrap amongst that lot, Lou. And you know, you and me usually get on and agree on quite a lot of things. But I think to say that Hasenhüttl and Rodgers stunk their respective places out is a little bit harsh because, yes, they were axed in the end, but, you know, Hasenhüttl was at Saints for what, 3 or 4 years after keeping them up and doing a good job of keeping them up? Rodgers did the same with Swansea.
Okay, so you say that, but now he's on the list, and some people think he could be possibly good enough to keep Leeds in a division when he wasn't good enough to keep Southampton in division. What does that make Leeds United then?
No, but he did keep Southampton in the division for the previous 3 years before he was out.
But they got rid of him, Chris, because they didn't think he was good enough to keep him in the division. They got Nathan Jones in, and they got relegated. So when you've got 2 or 3 plus managers, as history has proven through my stats and facts there, Leeds United would struggle to stay in the division if they got rid of Farker.
That list.
Every manager. Hang on, sorry, Brownie. You can't assess every manager on a moment in time where things weren't going so well and they were sacked, because the body of work where they were doing well, you're not looking at the work they've done previously. Like,
okay, that's fair enough. But at the same time, what I'm trying to say is, as a overall picture, clubs on the whole who've had more than 2 or 3 managers across the Premier League in recent few years have got relegated. What do Leeds United fans expect?
But by the same logic,
survival. So the best chance at the moment, based on history and the list of managers that are potentially available at this moment in time, will not do any better than what Farker's doing. Now, don't get me wrong. There's mistakes that Farker's clearly making with selections. I've heard it from the chaps. I've heard it from various sources that we think he could be selecting different players. Granted, absolutely fine. I'm not against that in the slightest. We can all be good managers and we can all say our opinion. But history has proven, more often than not, you swap your manager during midway through the season, you'll get relegated. That's it. You can't argue against it, Chris, because that's true. I've just read it out. It's true.
I just want to chime in. If anybody who's watching is in a football chat like this is what it ends up like every day going. All right, see you later, boys. Enjoy the lead chat.
And I feel difficult because obviously I get it. When the lads are in it, like Brownie and Jay, they see a different perspective to me because it's their club and they get rightly more passionate about it, and they can see probably holes in it more than I can do. But I looked at that thinking, am I being again on that side of Farker? And I've looked back in the past at people who've had short reigns, like I've said earlier. Somebody comes in now, November, December, they're going to get 90, 100 days. And history's proven that more than 2 or 3 managers get relegated. So I don't know what people are expecting. The Premier League is so different to the Championship, and maybe it needs to react a little bit better with the rest of the players.
But look at Emery coming in at Villa a couple of years ago. I'm not saying there is a candidate like Emery. Yeah. I'm not saying we could get that, but he came in November time or whatever it were at Aston Villa and transformed it, and then look at them now.
They didn't get relegated.
No, he didn't. And I'm not saying every single one is, and I've never said that every single one is. The likelihood is that most teams go down changing, and I get it, 100% get it. Some people are not happy with Farker and more entitled to their opinions. All I'm saying is, looking from the outside, it doesn't look favourable. So some fans have got to slightly question whether the grass is always green. It's the other players playing for Farker. For you guys to probably debate better than me, is form slipped a bit? Yeah. Is it a different beat of a Championship? Yeah. But also, what are Leeds fans expecting to get into the top half? It's not going to happen. That squad's not good enough.
Let's let Gaz come in because he's holding his hand up. He's waiting politely like he's at school with his hand up. Come on, Gaz.
Yeah, you missed it earlier, but I just had one point to make, and Lou actually said, come in before me because I'm going to go on a right rant, and you missed it, Chris. But my point actually follows on really nicely from Lou's, because ultimately all what he said and all what you guys are arguing about boils down to one question and one question only. Bring that list up.
Hang on. There we go.
Do you honestly think, or it's fan opinion as well, but the 49ers have to decide too, do they think anyone on that list can get more out of that stuff? Because you talk about PSR, there ain't going to be a lot of changes in January. So you've got to think to yourselves, is there anybody on that list that you think will do a better job than Farker? And then obviously the 49ers have to think that
it's impossible to say.
That's what it comes down to.
We can't say.
I'm going to go yes.
We can't say. Something wacky like Hasenhüttl could come in and get a tune out of that squad for 6 months. It's impossible.
I
Just
think
looking at it, you would probably say, yeah, it's not the most inspiring bunch, but we can't say categorically that nobody on that list can get a better tune of these players than Farker. We can't say that categorically.
Brownie, Hasenhüttl had a far, far better squad at Southampton than we've got.
Well, yeah, maybe, but that's not to say he couldn't get more from this squad than what Farker's doing. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying I want Hasenhüttl or anything, or that he would do it, but I'm saying we can't say that, you know, out of so many managers, that they all can't do a better job than Farker's doing right now.
That's true, mate. That's completely true. Also, but who would you get in? Who would you get in then, Brownie, in a moment? If Farker's not the right man, based on the candidates available, who is that man to take over from Farker, Brownie?
This is what I'm struggling with.
This is what it doesn't have to be somebody off that list. Like we see appointments that aren't on bookies.
This is what I'm struggling with.
The candidate is going to be of the level of that list or lower.
Same level or lower, yeah.
There's no Emery out there, is there? There's no Emery
out
there.
I get that.
There's no.
I get that.
Leeds are not published enough to go out to the Premier League and global tech.
The list has come back.
I'll bring it back then, because I reckon there's half a dozen managers on there that would probably stand a better chance of keeping you up than Farker.
Ooh, but you're speculating on the other side. So we're also saying that Farker, and I'm just kind of putting probably words in your mouth here, but we're saying we don't know if managers are going to be better than Farker. Who's to say that you flip it the other way? They could come in, they could lose the rest of the season. You're being hypothetical. Do you like the eye with Farker? We could flip the same argument.
You could, and this is the thing, because shock horror, that's football. You take your chances, don't you? You change your manager and it works or it doesn't. That is the basic
likelihood
thing.
Is it doesn't work.
But it might.
So Chris,
and at the end of the day, you look like you're still walking down.
That could do a better job than Farker.
Sorry, guys.
Know what Chris, you obviously said you think there are people on that list that could do a better job with the current squad than Farker. You said that a minute ago. I'd like to know what Brownie and Jay think, because they know the squad.
I mean, Brownie, I suppose I'll go first. And hi, nice to see you guys. I am more on Lou's wavelength of thinking. You know, I am. I've got to the point where I'm now kind of resigned to the sacking and resigned to the change because of the ridiculousness of the fan expectation and pressure. Not because it's what I think we should do, but the noise will carry so much now. It'll carry into Ellen Road that it feels inevitable for me, which is why I've been so frustrated today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if we're looking at this list here and you're asking me, the only one out of that list, I've been thinking about it a lot today, that kind of makes some rationale of sense that I think we might be able to gear them up for the rest of this season would be Southgate. Because I think Southgate would be able to command the respect of being the England manager and of being as successful as he was to that level. It might make them play to beyond their capabilities. But in my opinion, the rest of that list would see this team go down unless there was significant improvements in the squad in January. And Southgate might even take them down as well. Because as Lou rightly said, at club level, he's got a relegation on his record as well. And then I think Chris has got a certain, he's right to a point in a certain time frame. Things happen, managers get sacked. That shouldn't then discredit the success that they have. But I think even the success that this list have got, the likes of Brendan Rodgers, an example, a lot of water is under the bridge since then. It's the same conversation about Jose Mourinho. You know, a lot of you would say, and I think Lou even said Jose Mourinho would be a car crash at Leeds United. I hear it. I understand the reason as to why. Brendan Rodgers, I think, could be exactly the same. So I really struggle with this list, and I look at it and I think I would prefer the fan base to be right behind the manager that's in place, that's been at the club for 2 years, that knows this squad, that has already shown he's capable of getting 100 points at the Championship. I know it's a different level, but still capable of rebuilding from the playoff final disappointment. You know, he's picked this team up off the floor before, he's rebuilt it before. So I would prefer that to be the favourable option, but I understand that the fan base are connected to it too, and it feels gone for me, if I'm honest.
Just saying that Michael Scabala's 33-1.
Yeah, I heard Scabala.
I mean, Brownie.
Brownie talk.
Anyone that you see on there that you think would work or not work? Or...
No, I'll be honest. This is part of the conundrum. There's nobody on that list that strikes me as being particularly attractive. I don't necessarily back the club to get it right either, based on certain things that I've talked about already this evening. Because how well thought out is it going to be? They've clearly got a plan. They clearly were trying to make it work with Farker. So what else have they been doing? So there's nothing inspiring on that. The thing I'm struggling with, the thing that I'm so frustrated with, is that the level of the performance at the weekend, because that's opened the door to this entire conversation. These last two performances, the one winning 6, the decline in performances, the decline, where's the aggressiveness? Where's what we saw earlier in the season? Where has it gone? Because the performances have been so bad over the last couple of weeks, it's opened the door for all this. This is the problem. This is why this is what I was worried about. I was worried the fact that it would be another stinker, and this is how we would all feel. This is how we would react, and there would be these conversations. I really wanted us to put on a performance on Sunday that gave us hope, gave us promise, gave us something to point to, that we can actually perform away from home. We can get points. Farker is good enough, and there's something to believe in. This is the problem. It's left us in a position now where there is all these question marks. I have a big question mark about Farker, and I've been one of his biggest supporters.
Brownie, can I just say on that though? Are we overreacting slightly? Just hear me out for a second, right? So I saw people say earlier that we've not played well since we beat drawing to Bournemouth at home. That's just not true. We lost to Spurs the game after and actually played them off the park for large parts of the game and should have at least got a point. We conceded 2 deflections and lost. We then beat West Ham on the Friday night at home after the Burnley loss. We showed a reaction and beat West Ham. West Ham have then gone on to win back-to-back home games and haven't won at their place in forever. They beat Newcastle and beat Burnley at the weekend. So they were crap when they played us, but now they're all of a sudden they're good again. So Farker gets no credit for beating West Ham whatsoever now for some reason, even though he's won back-to-back games. They've won back-to-back games thereafter. We've then gone to Brighton, who are a great side, and they are very, very capable of crushing people. I agree with you, and I agreed with you yesterday when we spoke. The feeling around the performance yesterday wasn't good enough. I get it, but it's 2 Premier League games in a row, 2 away Premier League games in a row. That game yesterday was bigger for Nottingham Forest than it was for Leeds United. They were on 6 points at home against a team that have won 1 away game all season. They needed to win that game more than us, and they've got a better team than us. 1 to 11, I would probably put them all in over ours. They're out of kilt, they're out of position, and I recognise the fact that, they're in bad form, and they're a team that we need to beat because we need to replace another team. I hear all that, but in terms of the bigger picture, are we overreacting? Is the fan base overreacting, given the fact that this squad is as weak as what we say it is?
Yeah, I find it hard to disagree with that as well. When you kind of lay out the facts of what it is, it's hard, and it's almost like, I don't know, it just feels like the alarm bells are ringing with some of the performances and the decline in performances. I just feel like we're losing something. And I talked earlier about the recruitment and the issues with that, and it's there's bigger issues that we're going to have to look at if these players are not good enough, then the recruitment's not being good enough.
Yeah,
you can't. That's just a fact. How much did we spend? We spent over 100 million. We spent 120 million or something. We didn't recoup much, so we've still invested. We've still identified these players. We've still put money in our pocket. We've given Farker tools. Now, apparently, there was arguments over which keeper to pick. There's all sorts of things that have gone on. And I'm sure, it's as complicated as anything, much more complicated than fans realise. But I don't know. I don't know where my head's at with it, I'll be honest. I really don't know where my head's at it. even 24 hours on from the game yesterday, I don't know if I'm Farker in, Farker
Yeah,
out.
I know what you mean.
I just feel completely 6 and 7 with it.
I know Lou. Sorry, I was just going to say, I know Lou will agree with me when I say this, but there could be a conversation that the club were just not capable of getting the recruitment right to keep us up. Sunderland are an exception. They are breaking the mold of the rule right now, especially with the severity of how it's looking like they're probably going to stay up, right? And we know that they had a lot of PSR wiggle room. But right now, us and Burnley are in exactly the same position. You know, we're in exactly the same position. At least we're being competitive. We're not on 2 points. We're not looking like the bottom 3 from last season in Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton. We're not. We've been very, very competitive. The argument, I get the recruitment's not been good enough, but how good could it be? You know, like I'm gonna push back and try and keep a level head on this as much as I possibly can, because I am not fully subscribed to this is all just a crap manager's fault who failed 4 years ago at Norwich in the Premier League when he had nothing. They signed Josh Sargent, and that was it in that second season. Like, I mean, I know we had the back and forward earlier, and you Chris, you mentioned Derby as being the worst ever, and you were saying that they were nowhere near that team. Fine, all right. Let's just say that apart from Derby, there ain't that many teams worse than that Norwich side, especially the one that were in the second season. You know, the first one had a little bit of momentum, and they did have some characters within that side. You know, when I looked at it again, Jamal Lewis, Max Aarons, Ben Godfrey were coming through. You know, they weren't
that back four wasn't a bad back four, actually.
Yeah, they had something. But the second time they came up, they lost Buendia by then. They were screwed. So, you know, I just think it's so. I'm saying all this while hearing all of the things that the Farker outers are saying. So pre-planned substitutions, tactically, you know, a little bit inflexible at times, boring football at times, lineup comes out, you know what it's going to be. All these things, I hear it and I get it. But you know what? Most of the other managers have that as well. When Bielsa were going through bad times, Bielsa rolled out the same team in the same formation. You know, Bielsa rolled out the same formation with the same players when we were to the bare bones, Brownie. We had no players left to be able to play that level of football, and he still didn't change. That's what top level managers do. They stick to their principles, they stick to the tactics. So we're gonna find ourselves in the same situation with another manager that doesn't know these players. Like, I'm really worried about the quality of managers that we can attract, because I believe that they will look at this team and be like, I'm gonna get relegated.
No, I mean,
I'm wrong.
Yeah, 100%. No, I wouldn't back us to actually get someone of enough stature, whatever you want to say, to actually do anything better. To be honest, I think we would go for a cheaper option. I think you would see a Gary O'Neill. I think you would see someone of that ilk. And it's just a roll of the dice, then, isn't it? You know, and see if you can survive. It feels like it's heading a certain way, doesn't it?
Come January, like, I mean, we spoke earlier, Jay and I, in the group chat, like, what likelihood is there that there's a slight, depending on obviously how the table looks in particular and who and where things are manager wise, what are the chances of them taking a slight sodit approach to the PSR situation, spending not drastically over the means, but you know, just to try and get some bodies in, because whoever is in charge, whether that's Farker, Marco Rose, Rodgers, Solskjaer, frigging whoever, somebody who is going to be looking at that squad in January and wanting some signing somewhere.
You know, the biggest problem with that is that we've got very few sellable assets. Yeah. That's the biggest problem, because then you get relegated and you're like, shit. We can't reach. Yeah, and then you're in massive, massive trouble. You're in a situation that we found ourselves in because of the clauses where you're having to send them out on loan and you're getting no return value. And then you can't even bounce back. So, again, I remember the pain and misery. You know, I'm not a fan that will allow myself to just delete what happened 20 years ago out of my mind. You know, some of the takes that I hear of fans that are the same age as me that remember all that, remember League One, remember administration, and they're just like, balls to it, they're chuck it out. It blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. So no, from what we've heard, Browne, there'd be limited resources in January because of the PSR limits. I think we'd need to have some sort of confidence that we were going to stay up to spend more.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to highlight with the recruitment that's kind of doesn't add up. You know, the fact that we went so far with the Pai Zhao deal, you know, that was going to be £30 million. That's what we agreed, and he chose to go somewhere else. And you're looking at that going, that would, oh God, he'd have been perfect. We know that. And then I don't know where did that money go? What happened? I know we bought Okafor for half of that. We filled a couple other positions. We seemed to change tack. And then the other one, what was the other one I was going to say?
No,
it's completely gone.
I do believe
that's it. Sorry, just before I forget it again. Noah Siddiqui. So we were in him, us and Sunderland. He wanted to go to Sunderland over Leeds because of the project. That is a recruitment failure. I'm looking at Adam Underwood and Robbie Evans and Parag. Why couldn't you get that deal going? I'm not saying Noah Siddiqui is the Messiah and he's going to save the season, but I'm saying things like that, it's alarm bells.
But you know, for like Noah Siddiqui, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but you know, if he's sat in front of Leeds representatives and Sunderland representatives are saying we've got 200 million to spend, we've got complete clarity with PSR, we don't have any panic whatsoever, we're going to recruit all these players, we're going to have a team that are capable of finishing top 10, and then you go and sit in front of Leeds who say we've got 100 million to spend on 10 players, we are going to be a little bit tight to the project, but we're really keen to get you in, you are a big part of the plans. Who do you go to? Like they've got no concept of the history of the two clubs, and you know Sunderland are a big club in themselves. So when you look at it like, and then could they offer another 20-30 grand a week? I don't know. We don't know his wages, do we? So my opinion, just coming to the Pai Zhao deal, I truly believe if we'd have signed Pai Zhao for 30 million, we wouldn't have signed Okafor, obviously, and then we probably wouldn't have signed James Justin and Browne, or there'd have been gaps somewhere else in the squad.
But do you remember about the Okafor deal? The fact that he'd agreed to come to us before, and it was said like it was almost like it was kind of a deal that just kind of happened because we played them in a friendly. Well. It was like this is madness. What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I like certain bits, but we'd have been. And I mean, I said this in the summer, and nobody wanted to listen to me. But we the first signing we should have made was Manor Solomon.
Yeah,
it was the first signing we should have made, and he goes to Villarreal. He's having an all right season so far. We'd have known what we were getting, and he's what we're missing. We're missing him. We are missing him. You know, the attack arguably is worse than last season. In you know the situation that we find ourselves in with Okafor being replaced by Solomon, and then you know Bamford not being in the squad, and I know Bamford's not going to be the remedy, but is Calvert-Lewin that much of an improvement? He's a spicy Bamford, and he's a spicy Bamford. We've said that from first ball that were kicked. So, mate, there's definitely been. He is a spicy Bamford. He's a better looking Bamford. The recruitment is definitely an issue, but again, I am trying, I guess, to be understanding of the level of recruitment that they were capable of doing. You know, and for most promoted clubs, they're gonna struggle. Like Burnley have struggled as well, like all of them struggled last year, and all of them struggled the year before. You know, so and
sometimes there's a bigger picture than it's just a manager's fault, and some fans completely ignore that fact. Like Browne and you guys have touched on earlier, the infrastructure behind the scenes in terms of Kinnear leaving and planning for that succession, because that was rumoured for a long time. You know, has that been thought through? I don't know, because I'm not involved in four walls, but you know, people could look at that as an example. But also, let's be honest, some of the players can take a bit of responsibility and accountability as well. You know what I mean? It's like people are going, oh, Farker out, Farker's doing this and that. Hang on a minute. You Premier League quality players, majority of you, step up and do a job. It's not that difficult. You know, it's not just laid at manager's door. And I'm sorry, but there's an easy cop-out nowadays when it's all laid at the manager's door. Well, actually, in fact, for players, and I'm going to throw it in there, are paid enough money to be a luxury player in the Premier League, and are paid handsomely and are more than talented enough to step up the game. And sometimes
footballers don't take that responsibility anymore, though, do they? Like 15,
well,
20
you know
years
what?
ago.
You know what, Chris? Tough
15,
shit. We're going
20
to have to some time, aren't they?
Well,
Because
I know,
the managers are getting absolutely rinsed apart by fans and this, that, and the other. When actually some of the players could do arguably a tiny bit better.
I agree, but I think this is a problem with modern football in general.
It's a systemic issue,
honestly, yeah, this isn't just the Premier League. I think this applies right the way down to the national, your non-league scene.
And that's what I'm saying.
Footballers now just don't have that character and that mentality to be prepared to fight like they used to, and also to accept responsibility. So much stuff now is, even from players, is coaches' faults, his managers' faults, his fans' faults, is everyone's fault except their own.
To an extent, and I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm not. I'm not saying the players don't, because I would say 99% of players actually really do care, even to the levels at lower league, they do care. What I'm saying is the fans are very quick to get on the manager's back, rather than sometimes having a bit more of a balanced opinion and looking at some of them players thinking, maybe we can call them out a little bit better, rather than just laying it said manager's door a little bit. You know, we're looking at Leeds recruitment, which what the guys have said is absolutely fair. You know, you look at players in there who've signed. Justin couldn't get a game for Leicester in the Premier League. Now he's considered to be a Premier League player with Leeds. Longstaff couldn't get a minute in Newcastle's team for the final 4 or 5 months. Now he's a regular starter. That is upon Leeds United and promoted clubs efficient pretty much, unless you've got an unbelievable scouting department, which is, to be fair, what Sunderland have done. They've gone down a completely different route. Listen, we could be talking about this where Sunderland could be on the bottom of the table with 2 points. We were all expecting it. It were going to go one way or the other. They've took the risk, and you know what? Fair play, it's paid dividends to him, but it could have gone the other way. We don't hear people moaning about that, though, do we? Because it's all ifs and buts. And it's the same with Leeds United. And I just think people have just got to realise that sometimes it isn't all down at it's not all due down to the manager, like Browne and the guys have said. There's potentially other issues at play. And from what I've said earlier, be careful what you wish for, because it doesn't always work out. It really doesn't.
It's a circle of blame, isn't it? You've got the manager, the players, the owner, and whatever. Yeah, you know, and it's this kind of circle. And you know, you look at one aspect, you go, well, that's because of that. Well, that's because of that, and it just goes round.
You know what? Let's be honest. It's harsh to say, because we're all football fans. We can be absolute pain in the arses as well.
Yeah.
We can create a toxic atmosphere, and that doesn't help things in the slightest.
Lou, I said to Browne yesterday, half of the problem at Leeds United is us. And
we've lost perspective.
People will shoot me down on it. It's true. The fan base at Leeds United is such a positive and negative. You know, and we've also had our views clouded by the Bielsa shadow. I call it the Bielsa shadow, because the people's expectations are the lightning in a bottle moment that we got when we finished 9th on the return to the Premier League. That swashbuckling football that everybody absolutely loved, the way that we fell in love with Leeds United again during that period of time. People can't comprehend it outside of the club. You know, you might be able to, Lucas or Keegan, and the times that you've had, and even Eddie Howe, I suppose, to a point.
Of course it is.
Most fan bases have not had what we had with Bielsa, and it has definitely warped people's minds. Daniel Farke, from the second he walked in through the door, didn't get the credit that he deserved. He's 100%. Not.
Last year, when you were breaking records, still some people wanted him out, and you were top at Leeds. One of the guys there has made a really good point about Amrin at Man United. We might not like Man United. They've backed Amrin to the hill, and look what he's done. He's pulled them around this season, and to be fair, they're playing some half-decent stuff. I don't like saying it, but they are. You know, you look at other clubs. Yeah. What did I mention this weekend? What Spurs fans were doing, booing Frank when he goes and scores.
Yeah.
You know, people were moaning about David Moyes at West Ham. He leaves. He's gone to Everton. We know what's happened at West Ham. So sometimes, again, easy to blame the manager. It's not all down to the manager. There's other factors in play, and when you get toxic energy around a place, funny enough, guys, it plays onto the players, it plays onto the coach, and it plays onto the club. Because if you think, Craigie Gaz was saying it with Bradford City earlier, they're booing. The second in League One have just got promoted. What on earth are people expecting? It's
Crazy,
absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. You know, and I think yes, you get wrapped up in the emotion of it. I get it. That's the whole point of football. We love it for that reason. But sometimes it feels like you're just over expecting too much. And as shit as this sounds, there's still a picking order in football. And sometimes you've just got to accept where you are. And this sounds really harsh to say, and Leeds fans might come at me and absolutely swarm me. But Leeds United have been a championship club for pretty much the past 20 years. You're in the Premier League on the off chance at the moment. So embrace it, enjoy it, because you're not bottom of the league with 0 points. You're still in the shout of staying up. So get behind each other and grow together, because funny enough, if you start getting behind everybody's backs and getting on at people, that's when it will not work out for you. And you'll have a season in the Championship or another 5-6 years. Look at the teams who've gone down. Sheffield United, struggling. Luton, struggling. Ipswich, struggling. Leicester, Southampton, struggling. That could be Leeds United again, quite easily.
We'll
be back on Tuesday with a special show when Daniel Parker's sacked by the Leeds United board.
I just want a quick reminder, Brownie. Do you remember after we drew away at Luton back end of last season? It were about 6 or 7 games from the end of the season, and there was a genuine conversation about sacking Farker then in the fan base to get somebody that's just going to get us over the line with a bit of a different momentum. Just to back up exactly what Lou's been saying. So yeah,
sometimes you got to find a solution at the moment, and I'm not digging you out, Brownie, because I get it. But even you're struggling to find a solution. So when people go in, oh my God, what do we do? Get rid of Farker. That's fine. Find a solution then. Tell us what your solution is. Don't come with problems. Find your solution. If that is your solution, I'll be slightly concerned.
And on that note,
wrap it.
Let's wrap it up there. Good chat, though, lads. I mean, look, we've if you're a Leeds United fan, you've enjoyed the last hour's worth of Leeds United chat. I know Brownie and Jay, you're going to be basically regurgitating everything we've just done tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow night. 5 o'clock tomorrow night. Maybe me and Brownie can have a little bit more of a constructed kind of version of this. Maybe once another 24 hours have settled, Brownie, maybe we can actually get his head around this a little bit more. He ain't going anywhere. He ain't going to get sacked. He ain't. It'd have been done today.
4 games time.
I can't wait till you clip my piece and show that tomorrow in your show. That'll get them all riled, won't it?
What was that, Lou?
It says I can't wait for my little rant to be clipped up and share with the Leeds United fans. I think I might be off social media in a day.
No worries. We'll wrap it up there, though. Big thank you to all of you guys for joining, for Brownie, for Lou, for Jay, and of course for Stephen Downs and Gareth Walker that joined us to talk Leeds, Bradford and Huddersfield earlier on as well.
Always
as I say, Brownie and Jay will be back with a Leeds United show tomorrow night, and I'm sure they'll be doing well. I was going to say we'll be doing a preview show, but obviously there's an international break coming up that just crept up on me. Yeah, the eye roll is fair, Jay. The eye roll is fair. But Jay and Brennan will have more Leeds content. When we get to the weekend, I'm sure that the Town Talk lads will have some Huddersfield stuff. And we are hoping at some point to be able to start a regular Bradford City-based show as well. So if you're a Bradford City fan that doesn't talk complete nonsense, unlike the rest of us, let us know if you want to get involved with the West Yorkshire Football Show. And we'll see if we can start putting together a Bradford City show on a regular basis going forward as well. But from myself and the rest of the lads, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for all your comments. Do follow us on social media. So what is it you say, Brownie? Smash a like on the video.
Smash a like. Yeah, get subscribed.
And, we'll see you soon for more here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Take care.